I come before the public with some tragic news. This is a tragic piece of news, one that we were really hoping we wouldn't have to come before the public to give.
4 people, 3 female hostages and a gunman are dead tonight after a day-long standoff at a veterans home in Napa County. Police say a man from Sacramento wearing body armor and armed with a rifle stormed into the building this morning. Just before 6 p.m. tonight, law enforcement officers made the tragic discovery. I'm Chris Thomas. ABC 10's Francis Wang is live tonight from the scene. What a heartbreaking story, Francis.
So heartbreaking, Chris, and you can already see people are dropping off candles near the entrance of this veterans home in Yountville. This is usually a very nurturing and peaceful home for elderly and disabled veterans. I was actually just here last October covering their evacuations here on the complex during the Napa wildfires, and clearly they've been through so much in just a short period of time. Today, a horrifying situation, as you were saying. It all started around 10:20 this morning when authorities first received calls of shots being fired. A deputy with the Napa County Sheriff's Department arrived within just minutes. There was a shootout between him and the gunman, and authorities say it was that deputy's bravery that stopped the danger from spreading and possibly saved even more lives. That shootout was the last time anyone had contact with the gunman, who kept 3 hostages in a room all day. And just to give you a feel of the situation, we were told at around 6 p.m. that there were no major updates, but we saw all the emergency vehicles leaving, and at that point, members of the media could tell it was over. We had heard everyone involved was dead, but nothing can describe the gut-wrenching feeling of when we got that official confirmation.
I come before the public with some tragic news. Shortly before 6 p.m. this evening, law enforcement personnel made entry into the room where we felt the hostages were being held by the suspect, and unfortunately made the discovery of 3 deceased females and 1 deceased male suspect. This is a tragic piece of news, one that we were really hoping we wouldn't have to come before the public to give.
And it was just within the last hour tonight, the Napa County Sheriff Coroner's Office released the victims' names. We want to take some time to remember them tonight and say that we are truly grieving for those families and their loved ones. They were 42-year-old Jennifer Golick. She was the clinical director of the Pathway Home program. 48-year-old Christine Lober, she was the executive director, and 29-year-old Jennifer Gonzalez, a clinical psychologist. Pathway Home did release a statement saying they were all brave women who dedicated their careers to helping our nation's veterans and worked with those in the greatest need, the veterans who served in Afghanistan and Iraq. And Chris, as you know, we always try to focus on the victims and not the shooter, but tonight, 36-year-old Albert Wong from Sacramento, he's the alleged gunman. He was a veteran who suffered from PTSD, and he was once a part of that program. So that's really sparked a conversation about how difficult life can be for those who served our country, and we want to direct you all to our website, abc10.com, where you can find links and resources if you need help. Chris, back to you.
We cannot stress that enough, and we thank you, Francis, for that live report. As you can imagine, this has been a terrible day for so many families. In just a moment, we will talk to a man from Elk Grove. His father is a resident at the veterans home. But first, I want you to hear from people who were there today.
Go to your room, put all your furniture by the door, and hide like cowards. We're veterans, man. We'll take this guy out in a second. Let us do that, you know, that's what we do.
As SWAT teams continue to secure the area, everyone was ordered to shelter in place.
Units, be advised, he does have a stash of bullets around his neck.
Police say the lone gunman, loaded up with ammo and a semi-automatic rifle, took multiple hostages at a going-away party for employees at the Pathway home. Larry Kamer says his wife was one of the hostages the suspect released.
There was cake and, you know, a little bit of a celebration, and then this man walked in with a gun. My wife and 3 other women were able to leave.
As I mentioned, I spoke to a gentleman tonight from Elk Grove. He says he went more than 3 hours before he could actually get a hold of his father, who's a resident at the veterans home.
In this kind of situation, you know, we haven't ever heard of Yountville for, you know, a long, long time. Nobody's talked about it or anything like that. And now you search on Google or Yahoo and it's the first thing, you know, and so I guess it brings to light that it can happen anywhere and to anyone.
Mm-hmm. The good thing, though, you're saying your father is safe, but for you, it has just been a nerve-wracking day.
Yes, very nerve-wracking. Yeah, in a haze.
Now, we are told Capitol flags will be flown at half-staff in recognition of the victims and their families. And let's take the wall full now. Governor Brown released this statement saying, "Ann and I are deeply saddened by the horrible violence at the Yountville Veterans Home, which tragically took the lives of 3 people dedicated to serving our veterans. Our hearts go out to their families and loved ones and the entire community of Yountville." All day, SWAT teams surrounded the veterans home. It triggered a massive evacuation, which included a group of 80 school children nearby. Keep in mind, the Veterans Home of California, Yountville, is believed to be the largest home for veterans in the United States. It's 133 years old and houses approximately 1,000 veterans, according to the home's website. Those veterans include men and women with services ranging from World War II to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The home has been owned by the state of California since 1990. Because it's government-owned, the facility does not allow firearms on the property. Now, once again, the gunman reportedly being treated for PTSD and was asked to leave the Pathway Home program earlier this week. Authorities confirmed the women killed were employees of that program. And we are learning more now from a family member of one of the women killed. Bob Golick, the father-in-law of Dr. Jennifer Golick, spoke to the Associated Press. He said his daughter-in-law called his son this morning to say she had been taken hostage in the building where she worked at the Pathway Home program. Golick said she had recently kicked out the man of a program that offered treatment to Iraq and Afghanistan combat veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome and head injuries. The investigation into this tragedy is just getting underway, and you can always find the very latest developments on our website, abc10.com.